Hello, lovely people. Hello. Good day to you. I hope your day has been brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Mine has been fantastic. It's been uber productive. The weather's been a bit, again, like yesterday, but such is life. I wanted to come on again today and talk a bit about social work before becoming independent and what you can do if you're an agency worker. So this may be relevant to people around the world that is in this group, but it's especially relevant for people that are in the UK, and it may be similar if you are abroad. Now, I wanted to come on a bit earlier, but I was a little tied up in my productivity mode and got sidetracked. So, but I'm glad to be here now with you, and I hope that you'll be able to join. And any questions that you have, just put it in the comments, and I will assuredly get back to you and answer accordingly. So I wanted to talk, as I said, a little bit about social work as it pertains to people that are still trying to make the transition from being either a permanent worker or an agency worker to being independent. Obviously, once enrolment opens again for the course, you'll be able to join to do that. But I do have an audio workbook coming out soon where you'll be able to get that, and that will be a starter while you wait for the course. But even before then, I guess there are a number of social workers, certainly that I've spoken to recently, that are agency social workers, and I too, I've recently started assisting a local authority who have got a backlog of cases, and I'm going in on my terms to do a short piece of work for them to assist them. And what I noticed was a lot of the red tape that was around what's called IR35, which is Inland Revenue Clause 35. It was created initially to stop social workers who were setting up businesses that really had no intention of running as a business, but just wanted the tax relief here in the UK. I don't know if you have it there in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya. I don't know whether you have the same. I presume it would be the same in Ireland as well, because UK, England, Ireland and Wales are together for now before Brexit. And so, I don't know if it's the same in those other countries that I mentioned, and certainly even in the US. I think there are a lot more clinical social workers, and you have a different kind of operating system in that respect. But certainly here in the UK, that was implemented by the government so that that could really crack down on that naughty behaviour of trying to get tax relief. And so what's happened is public sector has deemed all workers that come and work for them as employed status, which has huge implications for tax relief and tax purposes. So for people like me, who is genuinely independent, who kind of invoices lots of different people from month to month and is running a genuine business, it means that I have to, for that short time slot, go in as employed, which is really weird, employment status. So it means I have to change the structure for the short period that I'm going to be working with them. And my accountant will have to do something different in terms of my payroll and things like that. But basically what I learned was a lot more about the IR35. I mean, I've delivered the British Association of Social Workers. I had an accountant come in when I was involved with the person that was heading up the independent department. I put on a training for social workers about IR35, but it's developed since then. That was maybe 3 years ago or so. When I'd first started being independent, so maybe I was a year and a half, 2 years in, but it's developed since then, and it's set to develop further. And so it has changed since then. So I was reading up a bit more about it, and I really discovered a lot more about the technicalities. So if you're an agency worker or permanent worker and you really want to start making the transition into independent social work, you do not have to be permanent. You can absolutely be agency. You can either go with the agency that you sign up with, or an umbrella company. Now, as an agency worker, if I was to go directly to the local authority or even the agency themselves within another sector, they'd have the option to put me on 3 different types of contracts, which is a worker, employee, or a contractor. Now, I am genuinely a contractor, and even the terms that I've negotiated with the local authority is that I'm not there 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, because I'm an independent social worker. I have commitments. And so to honour those commitments, I need to have condensed hours, and I'll be there a couple of days a week in the office, or around visiting families for them. And the rest of the time I'll be at home in my office doing stuff. And they were absolutely okay with that. And so that actually constitutes legally within case law, if and when HMRC needs to look into that, I would actually be deemed a contractor, not employed. But that will be something that I will look at a year down the line when I do my returns with HMRC. So to give you a bit of knowledge and understanding about that. And so if you're a permanent worker, but you really would like to be getting more money, and you actually would like to be able to do that so that you can save towards your independence, and also so that you've got a bit more flexibility, you absolutely can and should go agency. You can go, I would suggest and say that an umbrella company is probably the best bet, because they give you a higher margin for for those that are joining. An umbrella company will give you more of a margin and a return on your money, so you'll probably be in the higher tax bracket depending on your experience level. You'll be in the higher tax bracket. So I'll tell you what the tax bracket is for 2019-20. We're in the 2018-2019 tax year at the moment, but obviously from the 1st of April, which is next week, I believe, it will change. And so your personal allowance tax-free at the moment, or certainly, sorry, from April, will be 12,500. But what you would do is add on to that your expenses as an independent social worker once you set that up. And right now you will include your expenses as a social worker. So when you're registered to HCPC or your regulating body in the country that you're from, you will add that to that 12,500 and whatever other professional expenses that you have. So I'm a member of Nagaro, I'm a member of HCPC. When I was more active providing family therapy as a systemic practitioner, I was also registered with the Association of Family Therapists. I was associated with BAATN, which is the Black and Asian Network for Family Therapists as well. Who else? What else is there? I'm registered with the Information of Commissioner's Office to say that I can handle data protection and manage confidentiality and GDPR and all those things. So all of those registrations will go under, and I'm also part of ILPA as well, which is an immigration network and a network of solicitors. And so I would include all of that and include the amount that I pay each year. And that will be totaled with my personal allowance of 12,500, and that will give me my tax code for the year. Okay, and that tax code basically allows you to get income of that amount tax free. So it's important that you absolutely add all those things up, even as a permanent social worker or social worker going into an agency, so that you can get as much tax relief as possible. Once you've then done that, there'll be a threshold depending on your hourly rate as to what you will have to pay in terms of tax. So anything up to 12,500 will be tax free. Anything from 12,501 to £50,000 will be 20%, and then 5,001, 50,000 even and one pound to 150,000 is 40%, and that's classed as the higher rate. So most agency workers will be taxed at the higher rate, but when you're with the agency, it's like higher rate. You're really getting taxed. Whereas with an umbrella company, even they will take on your payroll and you'd be employed by them essentially, and they will deduct all the different things. You'll get employment rights under Regulation 2003, and so you will actually be able to continue getting your employment rights just like you would as a permanent worker. So you get your holiday, sick pay, pension, You'll get all those things, and your right to, if they don't pay you on time, to be able to chase them for it and take them to task. So you're completely protected and covered, that you'll be taking home more money than if you went with the agency directly. And so that's a really good way that I'd encourage you, if you're still trying to make the transition to independent and you want to increase your income, that's a really helpful way for you to be able to do that in a legitimate tax way. There are several umbrella companies that you can use, and I'll post the link in the comments description bit of a league table that you can use that's kind of current as it stands today in 2019 of different umbrella companies that you could use. Obviously, do your due diligence. The main things you want to check, they're all much of a muchness, but the main things you want to check is what are the perks. So do they do like pension schemes? Do they do childcare vouchers? Some of them do childcare vouchers. Those kind of things. Do they have any hidden charges? So administration charges. So they usually charge a weekly amount for doing your payroll and to kind of get the money from the agency for you and all those kind of things. But that can vary from like £18 to £24 a week, depending on who you're with. So those are the kind of things that you want to ask. And you want to ask if you're going to have somebody who's dedicated, that you can talk to anytime that you have a query or a question or a concern or a complaint, or if you want to give positive feedback. So just somebody that you can touch base with all the time, that you know is dedicated for you, that's like your consultant, and that will be the go-between between you and the agency. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that information and kind of advise you a little bit and recommend, I guess, from the information that I've done personally. That may or may not work for you. You may or may not want to do that. You might have a different idea about what you'd like to do, and that's okay. Do your due diligence. But what I'd say is that if you are permanent and you want to start making the transition, that will be one of your first steps to make a transition to become an agency worker and start moving towards independence. It will give you the money and the flexibility. You may even, as an agency worker, be able to negotiate doing condensed hours. It's also a great opportunity for you to upskill yourself, and if you've got a particular interest within your practice, you can actually go for a role that will be designed for that, where you can really show your skills, and you'll then be able to put that on your resume as well and add that and develop that when you become independent. So an area of interest that you'd really like, that would be a great opportunity for you to do. For those of you that are not in the UK, not in England, again, I would suggest that you look at something similar. You want to look at what your tax rate is for your country. And again, I went online and I did some information seeking about the countries that have the highest kind of corporation tax rates in the world and those that have the lowest. How reliable that is another matter, because, you know, information changes. And it's not, I tried finding something that was a government kind of website, official website, and I don't think I really found that. But out of interest, the one that I did found, which is called Tax Foundation website, it said the highest corporation income tax rates in the world is the United Arab Emirates, even, Comoros in Africa, Puerto Rico, Suriname in South America, and then there are several other African countries: Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, and Guinea. So all the others further down. Let me see. I'm thinking who I've got. Who else is in this group that is on this list? So there's nobody in this group from a country in this group that's on that list, apart from the ones that I've just mentioned. And the ones that are the lowest is Ireland is number 2, Cyprus is number 1, Moldova, Republic of Moldova. So there are quite a number of countries in Europe, basically. I'd say the top 10 are countries in Europe. And again, in terms of anybody who's in this group, there isn't anybody on that list that's got the lowest. So I presume that they'd be kind of in the mid-range. But I would again suggest that you do some information seeking on that and check that out so that you can be clear about what the tax brackets are. Have a conversation with an accountant and find out what your options are and what the best way would be to proceed. You can check and see if you've got a system where you have umbrella companies. That will be dependent on what the tax rates are. You may not need it. Your tax rates might be such that it's kind of quite fair in the way the public sector operates, means that you won't be at a loss, and so you might not need something like an umbrella company to be an intermediary between you and the agency who provides you the placement at the actual local authority or public sector job, wherever it is. So that will be something for you to look into and check out whether you need something like that. But I'm sure different countries will have different things, and I'd be really interested to hear how you operate. So I know for some of the people that are in Africa and in different countries in Africa, the system is very different in terms of the work that they'll do will be private, and if it's public it will be under certain ministries. Similarly in the Caribbean, so we've got people in here that are from Trinidad. They have ministries, and so you'll work for the government within that particular ministry, but it can be very varied as a social worker across different ministries, whether it's health, whether it's education and lifelong learning, different things. And the structure will be different because some countries like Trinidad, for example, has modelled their social work practice on social work. So interestingly, the director of the social work course at Royal Holloway University, where I attended, her name's Adele Jones. She was actually Trinidadian. She headed up what happened in Trinidad in terms of the work that they do and how they structured the course over there. And so I did some work with her, and so that was very interesting. So depending on the country, it will be depending on what country they've modelled the social work program, whether they've piloted and pioneered it themselves, and so those are all the things that you need to take into account and consider. So I encourage you to take action. What have you done today? What have you done this week, this month, this year that has moved you towards independence? Remember, this is not something that's overnight. It's about taking a step-by-step approach and taking small steps towards the overall goal. Okay, so I hope that this was beneficial. If you've got any questions, please pop it in the comments, and I'd like to hear what your structure is like in terms of work for people who are not independent and people who are not permanent in roles in your country. We've got people from all over, places in Asia, Philippines, India. I'm really interested to hear how it works. So please share. Sharing is caring. Have a beautiful evening. Bye.